You got some Bionicles? You need some inspiration? Well, we got both for you today in this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series, where we take a look at mocks from the Bionicle community and we talk about them. We see what sort of stuff they're doing. We talk about some sort of principles, ideas, tips, and tricks that can help give you a few ideas for some of your own cool Bionicle mocks that you might be making or planning on making. So today we're going to be talking about Toa and other sort of humanoid-related mocks. I have a few Toa in this episode, but I also have some characters that are just basic dudes, basic humans, basic people, you know? So I kind of wanted to just talk about that today. Nothing necessarily, super specific. None of your Rahi, none of your crazy dragons or some sort of 12-eyed, 46-toothed fish beast man. No, we're just going to go back to basics. We're going to talk about humanoids, Toa, dudes, as they are sometimes called. So let's begin. Let's bite down into the meat in our Bionicle sandwich. So the first mock we're going to talk about today is by Alex Mertens, and it's called Helix. So this was a fantastic entry into the Helix canonization TTV contest, and this has a lot of really, really cool stuff going on in it. So let's talk about it, because this is a good mock. So some of the texture play on this mock is just utterly beautiful. The way, taking a look at the torso, the way that the sort of main kind of top bit of the torso there, which is using that Borok weapon piece there, the sort of large circle piece. At the bottom, it has those little sort of almost kind of grills on it, those little stripes. That sort of texture looks quite nice, of course. And we see a very similar texture on the shoulders as well, in the gap on that blue mask. And then we see that same texture being repeated down on the waist as well. And then it's not quite the same texture on the legs, but just sort of next to it, there's a sort of similar sort of shape to it. It's a little bit sort of similar, not quite the same, but kind of close enough that it could be kind of confused for that very similar texture there. But it's amazing how much that texture is repeated here on this mock, especially too, it's also repeated on the mask itself. So it's really nice to see that consistent texture being used across all the different elements of blue on this mock. It's really nice. It just helps to tie all the different pieces together, really helps this mock just kind of flow very nicely, look really organic and look really beautiful. And something else that looks fantastic too is going back to the torso, that Borok shield piece and those two masks that act as sort of shoulder pads on this mock. The sort of natural gap on the sort of very side of those two Vakama blue Vakama masks there, they very nicely just sort of slot into that Borok weapon piece there, and it almost makes it look like one big consistent piece. The natural textures of these pieces are all very similar as well. This sort of very nice sort of smooth look and feel to them. So just the way those pieces flow into each other, kind of transition into each other, and have very similar textures, whether it's the grill texture or the smooth kind of texture of the actual piece itself, it just flows so well and looks so beautiful. When you're able to achieve that level of flow and consistent texturing on a mock, it really, really stands out, really, really shines. I think this is a fantastic example of just how nice it can look, and how nice it can look across the whole of the mock as well. Really, really nice work there. And on the subject of textures, taking a look at the grey areas on this mock, we see again that grill texture being used just under that Borok piece on the grey bit there. It's the grey version of that blue piece that's also on the waist. Additionally to just sort of a lot of other elements on this mock, whether it's sort of the toes or the little knees, the fingers, some of the other textures on the lower arms and stuff, it does have this more sort of industrial kind of mechanical robotic look to it. So it kind of really lends itself to the aesthetic that I imagine this mock is aiming for, of that sort of more kind of stripped back industrial robotic look. So again, your textures can go a long way at communicating that sort of thing, depending on the aesthetic that you want to convey, of course. But I actually really like the knee pads on this mock too, using some of those really old Lego ski pieces. You still get them today. They come in the 501st Battle Pack set, a fantastic new recent Lego set that good luck trying to find one. They sell very quickly these days. But, maybe that'll be different for you. I found a bunch in the store the other day, so you never know. But that ski piece has come in a whole bunch of other sets as well. I'm just saying that's a recent set that it comes in. But it looks quite nice as a sort of little kind of jutting out knee design of sorts, just kind of making the knee a little bit more prominent. I think it works well. So that's really cool. I also really like the weapons on this mock. This really cool, interesting shaped shield here, using some of those fin pieces to create that interesting look. And this just nice looking mace design, very effective, very nice. There's just a lot going on this mock that really works well. This is definitely a really cool, really cool version of Helix here. Nice work, Alex. Next mock now. This mock is by our boy Iggs, and this mock is called Deacon. So there's a lot to love about this mock. The description, of course, says, I'll read what it said. It says, keep on rocking. He says, a mock finished right before the Biocup started. Spot the heresy. So I imagine the heresy on this mock is the fact that it has a denim leather jacket. Denim leather? Those are two different things. A denim jacket that he is wearing here. I don't believe that is Lego. But hey, it works. And you probably thought I was just going to skip over that. He mentioned the Biocup, and you might be like, Ben, what happened to your Biocup coverage? My apologies. I am still going to do it. I promise you that I will. Things have just been busying up. Things have just been hectic and busy and all that. I promise you that I will continue that coverage in time. But just once some assessments die down, once university gets manageable to some degree, and I'm able to spare a few minutes here and there, I'll definitely make sure to put that sort of stuff out. Because I promised I'd do it. And if I put out a promise, I gotta fulfill that promise. So it will come, might just come a little bit later. But it'll be a nice blast from the past as you look back on the Biocup. You know, it's never too late. Anyway, so this mock here. Something that immediately grabbed me about this mock is the really interesting head design. I don't know, when I first saw it, I sort of saw it as this interesting helmet design that sort of flips up, very similar to the Biker Scouts in Star Wars. Just, I saw that sort of orange bit at the very top there that sort of juts out. To me, it looked like, a sort of visor that had been flipped up, and it could maybe flip back down and kind of cover his face, like he's getting ready to ride a bike or something. I don't know, a weird futuristic bike of sorts. Or it could just be like a hat, and that's sort of the brim of the hat or something. I don't know. Again, it may not be that, but those are the two options that I saw for this. But regardless, I think it's a really unique and different way to approach a head design, and it's nice that it kind of leads it up to your imagination as to what it could be representing. But at the same time, it could just be this interesting kind of jutting forward head design that I think still works. But I like that it also kind of looks like a few different things here and there. So it'd be interesting to see what Iggs says that actually is based off of, or is he's intending to show there. But yeah, it's. I think it's often more fun sometimes to imagine what it could be in your own head, you know. So I also really like the color scheme on this mock too. The orange and the black works well with the little hints of a few other pops of color there. It works nicely. The snazzy shoes are, of course, just fantastic. Using some different kind of clip pieces to get this sort of, I don't know what that's called on a shoe. I'm not educated enough with shoes. It's probably a really obvious thing, and you're like, oh my god, Ben, how do you not know? But well, it's late at night right now. I'm recording, and I've forgotten. But just, hey, it looks really cool. If you want to give your mock some fancy kicks, as they say, you could do that, you know? It works really well. I think it really fits with the general aesthetic of this mock, and I think even if it didn't have like the leather jacket or the cool kind of hat or something, it can just be a fun idea to give your mock some fancy schmancy shoes, some nice snazzy shoes, you know? I think it's nice. I think it's a cool idea. And they're very well built here, of course. That's the second time I've whacked my laptop here. I don't know what I'm doing today. There you go. But another thing I like about this mock, taking a look at the upper legs on this mock, we can see that one of the two legs has this sort of red stripe across the side of it. Now, these are, of course, the Corellian blood stripes on Han Solo's pants. Han Solo's pants from the Han Solo CCBS buildable action figure from Solo: A Star Wars Story. That was a set that was released not too long ago now. Yeah, a couple of years ago or a year ago or whatever. I don't remember the exact date. But it's a nice piece. It's a nice printed piece there. And I think that little subtle addition there of putting that little stripe in there, I think really works to this aesthetic. It looks like this guy has some jeans on that have a nice kind of pattern to them or something. It's just a nice fitting addition. Another little thing that I like about this mock is just kind of the way the arms are built, specifically how they use a whole bunch of different dish pieces, especially at the angle they are in this image. To me, because they kind of have that kind of rounded quality to them, it almost seems to kind of represent like muscles. It looks like this guy's almost kind of flexing to some degree, and he works out, man. He's got some good old arm muscles there, you know. So I think that's, I don't know, just an interesting way of showing kind of buffness on a mock. But at the same time, too, just the textures of those pieces fit nicely with the other Hero Factory shells that are on there. There's some nice consistency with that. And also, it's just a good piece to put into the sort of elbow and shoulder joints there, just to kind of cover up what would be gaps there and make it look more consistent, make it kind of flow and everything. So yeah, not only does it work with filling in gaps, just little sort of little finessing details. It also does help with character, showcase that he might be a bit more strong, buff, powerful, all that sort of stuff. So that's some nice building going on there. I like that. So really cool. Yeah, and of course, by the way, like I said at the start, cool denim jacket. Don't be afraid to throw in some random non-Lego, non-official piece. You can be non-purist if you want. You could throw in, I don't know, the leather jacket from a Hot Toy figure, or from a Barbie doll, or from some other action figure you got lying around, or one that you found on the floor, or your mum made you, whatever. Maybe Stuart Little came and he left his clothes at your house for whatever weird reason, and you're like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on a Bionicle. Who knows? Many opportunities, some weird, some cool, but hey, I think it works on this mock, and I think it could work well on your mock too. So let's move on to the next mock, and it's by, it's Ninja Steel. That's his name. It's Ninja Steel. It's a cool name. And speaking of cool names, this mock is called Blaze, and it's his self mock. So this guy here, he's got a nice little necklace around his neck, of course, which is something you see every so often on a mock, but I just think it's a fun little detail. You know, you can tie it back to some sort of story element that you might be putting on your Toa character or your Bionicle, you know. Could be the necklace that their mother gave them before they were killed by the Fire Nation, or there's a ring on the edge of the necklace. They tie it around their neck so that the one ring doesn't mess them up and the Nazgul follow them or turns them invisible. Obviously, I'm stealing those things from movies and TV shows, but your cool story could be just as cool as Avatar and Lord of the Rings. So you could do that. You could put some sort of cool-looking addition onto your mock that not only just looks nice, but also ties back to your rich and complex backstory. It's a cool idea. Also, he's got a heart light too, just the simple addition of a little trans green stud there on the torso. I always like that. I always think it looks super cool. It's just a nice little pop of detail, a nice little pop of colour that sort of stands out from the rest of the mock, but it just looks nice. I always think that looks cool, personally. So that's nice to see. I also like the kind of very broad shoulders on this mock here, using a whole bunch of different shoulder connector pieces and Hero Factory shells and things. It does give this mock a very sort of strong, broad, powerful stance and look to him. It's very fitting and very cool. And a bit different from some of the other mocks we saw in this episode as well. You know, we just spoke about another mock that looked a little bit more muscular, but that's another way of making a mock look a bit more buff and strong, is to kind of buff out their shoulders in that manner. As long as it kind of ties in with the rest of the mock, of course. Another interesting detail on this mock is the fact that he's got some rubber bands kind of being attached onto the upper legs on this mock. Kind of just gives this interesting black V on that shell there. I don't know, that could be a cool idea, you know, if you've got some official Lego rubber bands or some non-official Lego rubber bands, because some of those old black Lego rubber bands, those things break very easily. So if you go down to a hobby shop or your local rubber band store and buy some and find a way of putting them on your mock like this, you could get some interesting textures or something unique in this fashion here. Could work well. But yeah, I think this is just a cool mock. We don't actually see the lower legs on this mock here. Some of the pictures that were taken here don't include that. But hey, maybe you can't figure out the lower legs on your mock, but you really want to post it online. Just take pictures of it with the legs up, you know? That's not what I'm saying that Mr. Ninja Steel here, I don't imagine that that's the case here. He probably just how he took the pictures. But yeah, you know, if you want to cheat, yeah, maybe people won't notice, you know, it's up to you. If you can't figure it out, but you really want to get the thing out, yeah, maybe, you know, let's see what works. But yeah, regardless, nice work on your self mock here, looking super cool. Let's move on to the next mock. This mock is by Ron Folkers, and it's called James Daredevil and Flying Engineer. So I'll read the little description on this mock because it's fun. It says, no stunts are too complicated or dangerous enough for this guy. This mad lad, well, he isn't scared of anything. But when he's not stunting around, he works as an engineer. Very convenient when there's some of those jobs that are a little too high up, because he just flies up in seconds with his Super Propeller 3000. I like that. That's cool. It's a fun backstory. I like it. It fits. I like the way that the Super Propeller 3000 has been designed here, using one of those old Exoforce turbine pieces combined with some of the wing pieces from, Kupaka, Mystica, and I'm sure a few other sets that are not coming to my mind right now. But it works well as a nice little kind of propeller there. I also just kind of like that aesthetic too, just a humanoid character that has this almost sort of additional kind of jetpack thing that maybe they could use it as some sort of weapon, or they could use it as, a propeller device. That's a cool idea. But of course, you could argue, like, well, it's taking a bit of inspiration from Rotor, the Hero Factory villain, Rotor. Really, really cool character, really cool set. But, well, there's a quote by our good friend Einstein, and he says, creativity is about learning how to hide your sources. Of course, I saw this source, not well hidden in that sense, but that's irrelevant. To me, that's, I think, is such a good way of looking at creativity and making stuff, is it being like, hey, you know, as nice as it is to come up with an original idea, a whole bunch of people just don't and steal stuff, but then they adapt it and make it their own, you know? And so it's about learning how to hide your sources, whether you hide it through finding something super obscure that no one knows about, or you hide it by redesigning it, making it your own, changing it up in some fashion. And I think that's a good example of exactly that. You know, the rotor at the top of his head was using some of the Brutaka weapons in black, and there was a kind of different kind of mechanism that you could use to spin it and stuff. Whereas here, it's using totally different pieces, and it's all kind of being supported on an entirely different piece as well. So I think that's just a great way of approaching it, and a great way of taking what was there before, making it your own, making it different, but still making it cool. So I like that. This mock also has a necklace on it as well, but I like the fact that it is, at the base of it, it's got a hook. Kind of fits in with his engineering-focused backstory, you know. Maybe he uses that to, you know, support himself or hook onto certain things or pick stuff up, I don't know. Or maybe he just likes twirling it around and looking cool, I don't know. But then I like the idea that he just sort of slings it around his neck, and that's just where he keeps it in the time being. And I think that's kind of cool, you know. It's part of his helicopter gear. I don't know, you know. He's like a search and rescue helicopter. He's got a chain that he can use to pick stuff up, and he flies up and all that. I think it's a fun addition. It kind of fits with his backstory, fits with the concept. It's really clever. It's really clever. I also think it has a lot of personality too. You know, he's a dude with a chain on his neck that's just a big old hook kind of thing. You know, he seems like a bit more of a rough and gruff kind of character. I like the color blocking on this too. Just always interesting to kind of space out the colors in that fashion. It works well. And yeah, overall, just a really cool concept and a really cool character. A great way of approaching a humanoid mock. Let's move on to the next one. So this was a cool one. This is by Vincent Steffens, otherwise known as Giro 100, and this is called Ferox, Toa of Fire. So what I like so much about this mock is the shield that it uses. Love a good shield, and this mock uses a cool one. So this shield is this interesting Hero Factory breakout, I think is where those first came in. Interesting shield element, was designed as a shield. But this one has some cool printing on it. And so where this actually came from was not a Hero Factory set. This was a Ninjago set. It's this one here. It's Destiny's Bounty Ninjago set from a few years ago. And this piece was just sort of slapped on to the Ninjago ship. And slapped on pretty well, I might add. I think that was a fun, cool addition to that set. But hey, yeah, if you bought that set, or I don't know, maybe you want to hop onto Bricklink or something and buy that set now so you can, well, just have a cool looking ship, or you want it for that piece, or you want to use some of those other cool pieces on that set to design something. Yeah, it'd be a worthy investment, I'm sure. As long as it hasn't gone up in value, who knows? I did not check its current price, current market value before recording here, so you'll have to let me know. But still, I think that's a really fun addition to put that on a Bionicle, you know. It is originally a Bionicle piece that was put on a system set, so it's nice to see it getting back to its Bionicle roots there, and I think it works really well in this mock, specifically with the color scheme of this Toa. Because, of course, the color scheme matches the shield, you know. It's got little hints of black, bits of the red and the gold of the dragon on there as well. And so, of course, the color scheme matches that. But I actually think the textures match it too, because the shield itself is very smooth, and so is the Hero Factory armor on the lower legs here. Well, and the upper legs too, all of the legs for that matter. But then we take a look at the top of the mock, and some of the areas of gold on there, yes, they are to some degree smooth, but there is this sort of kind of more ancient look to them, and they sort of have interesting kind of grill-like marks on the shield and on the mask as well, which they're consistent with each other, but to some degree I would argue that interesting kind of grill texture kind of conflicts with the Hero Factory armor to some degree. I'm being a little bit finicky here, but I actually really like that it does that, because those details on the gold pieces look a little bit more ornate, look a little bit more sort of detail-focused, which I think, again, matches the shield. You know, the shield has this aesthetic of beautiful, unique, golden, with a lot of little tiny, beautiful drawings and details etched onto it. And then I think his armor reflects that. Shiny, new, ornate, battle-ready armor with rich golden detail added over the top. I think that's essentially what this mock is doing. It's awesome. It's really cool. So I think it's a great way of approaching your textures and your colors here. It's a great idea for sure. So yeah, I really like this mock. It's a nice blending of older Bionicle pieces, older Bionicle colors with your newer construction pieces and aesthetics. It's awesome. It's really cool. On to the next mock. This is Tahu, the Corrupted Uniter of Fire by Victor. So I really like this. Again, another great example of a really, really nice color scheme here. Why it's so cool, I think, is because, well, honestly, just the trans neon green there works so well with your reds and your blacks. But also, the original Tahu mask on this here is from one of your older Bionicle G2 sets there. But it naturally had that kind of dual molding color scheme to it of it being primarily red, but towards the back it gets to that trans green color. And it's nice to see that mask kind of getting its own life on a whole complete mock, because of course it just came as that mask, if I'm correct. Pretty sure. And of course, there were a fair few Bionicle masks that were like that. You know, you'd get your villain set, and it would come with this sort of corrupted mask that had the dual molded colors to it. And yeah, I think that's just really cool to take that mask that didn't have a body and give it a body, much like this, and to do it so well as well, I might add. You know, I think these three colors work very well together. The choice of that printed torso, which has a very similar kind of color scheme to it that fits well with this mock, it's just awesome. And I really like these weapons as well, and there's a nice little addition to these weapons too. If you zoom in a bit, kind of on the bit where the fire blades are, you can see some Ninjago system minifigure armor pieces nicely inserted into the axle that connects the fire sword onto the hand of this mock, and it adds just this nice little pop, this nice little sort of hilt or sort of detailing onto the sword weapon here. And it's nice, you know, it's not something I've actually seen people do much, just adding any kind of minifigure armor in this fashion, just to add a little bit more to a weapon. It's a really simple thing to do. You just sort of slot the axle into the hole where you'd normally put the armor around the minifigure neck, and yeah, you might get some, something really unique, something really different there on a weapon. It's awesome to see, really, really clever. So yeah, this is a fantastic mock, great colors, great use of some more, I would argue, underused pieces. So great to see those things being put into new life. Very cool. And the last mock in this episode is by Sergei Rakaminov, and this is this is called Radgar. So this was actually built as a present for Patrick Biggs celebrating his birthday. I don't think he actually received this mock, but some of his friends were very kind and built a whole bunch of cool-looking mocks for him, which is very cool. So this mock is to some degree inspired by Patrick, but also just looks really nice and is its own beautiful, unique mock as well. So let's discuss. So immediately what intrigues me about this mock is the torso. There's 3 of these larger kind of power crystal elements inside it. I don't know, the way that it kind of caves inward, and it almost sort of looks like a geode or some sort of crystal formation you might find inside a cave or something. To me, kind of almost, looks like this is some sort of unique tower of rock that's kind of, I don't know, it's a tower of rock that has crystals growing out of it or something, and that's his heart. I don't know, it's unique, it's freaky, it's cool, I really, really like it. I also kind of like the idea that this mock is a little bit more old and ancient, and it's the idea that he's kind of lost the armor around his torso and you can kind of see inside his like internal organs or something. It's kind of cool. I really like that. It also just looks nice too, those 3 crystals kind of meeting like that in the middle. I think that's really cool. Something else that's really cool is the coat on this mock. So of course, this mock here is using a, I think it's the, what's it called? I think it's the cloak piece that came on the Kylo Ren CCBS figure. If not, it could be a whole variety of different ones, but I'm pretty sure it's that one. That cloth piece is being used here and sort of sprayed on the side like this, and it kind of just flows up into the rest of the body here. But bling blong. But what is so clever about it is the kind of collar, the sort of edges of this cloak that this figure is wearing here, this coat, as it were, is the little system edges towards the top of the torso. The way those are connected, they sort of flow back. You can kind of see it. There's a few pieces that sort of flow on the sides, and they actually connect on the back of this mock. So I like the idea that connecting it on the back and having it flow forward makes it look like this cloak has this sort of interesting kind of collar design that kind of flows up as it gets closer to the neck. I think it's just a clever way of doing it because it kind of gives the illusion that it's, well, not doing that, not kind of flowing to the back, and it all just looks like one big coherent thing. I think it's actually really cool, really pretty, really unique, really well designed, and a great way of doing that if you wanted to build your more different, unique kind of cloak coat design. Getting some official cloth and then attaching things to the back and having it flow onto the front. It works well, works really well on this mock. Something else that works well, the unique crown design that this mock has. That's really cool to see. I love that. I love the idea of taking any Bionicle mask and finding a way to give it some sort of crown or helmet. It's not something you see every day, and it works really well here. And finally, the staff on this mock. I love the fact that it's got this little crystal housed in this sort of glass dome on it there. That's really unique and really cool, actually. I thoroughly enjoy seeing that. It kind of looks like this staff is being like powered by that jewel, and so it's sort of just being housed inside it so that it can channel the power out of the crystal and let it kind of flow through and stuff. I think that's really cool. That's really cool. So lots to love about this mock. Some really unique and clever stuff going on for sure. Nicely done, and nicely done to all the builders in this episode today. Some really cool Toa and humanoid mocks. Hopefully, if you're planning to build a Toa or just a typical humanoid that isn't specifically a Toa, some of the stuff in this episode really could help you out. Speaking of helping you out, or helping other people out really, if you enjoyed the mocks that you saw in today's episode, be sure to check the links in the description below, because there you can see links to all the mocks that I featured today in today's episode, and you can see some of the other stuff that these builders have got going on, some of the other things that they might have built, and you can check all that stuff out over there. Additionally, there's links in the description to my social media, so if you want to see some of the stuff that I've got going on over on my Flickr, Instagram, Facebook, all those sorts of different places there, you can be sure to check it out and see it all there. Recently, I've been heading back to university and going to the photography studio there and taking some of my mocks with me, so if you want to see some of my older mocks get a brand new spotlight with some cool updated photography there, get a bit of a throwback or a blast from the past at some of the older things that I've built. I've been posting a bit of that, but I also have a few brand new mocks coming your way soon, so you can expect to see some of that over there if you're keen. Additionally, if you enjoyed this episode and you're like, I'd like to see some of my stuff on this Bionicle Inspiration series, well, you can. The email you're currently seeing on your screen is the submission email. Send me as many images as you want, or as few images as you want, and put as little or as large a description as you want in that email as well. Send it my way. I'll get that email, and then I'll add that mock to the list, and one day your mock could appear on the Bionicle Inspiration series. Got a lot of mocks to work through though, so your patience is of course key. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Happy building. Bye for now.